The BBC chairman is facing calls to resign as pressure mounts on the broadcaster over the Gary Lineker saga. For the second straight day, sports programs on both television and radio aired in a reduced format due to pundits boycotting in solidarity.
Have you spoken to Tim Davie yet, Mr Lineker?
Yet another day of chaos swirling around the BBC's biggest paid star.
Have you spoken to the BBC yet, Gary?
The man himself tight-lipped over what might be next.
I can't say anything at the moment, sorry.
Pressure is growing on the BBC Director General, Tim Davie, who's flown back from Washington to try and get a grip. But the whole affair has brought attention firmly back to the BBC's chairman, Richard Sharp, embroiled in his own impartiality row.
If you compare it to what happened with Richard Sharp, the chairman of the BBC, a few weeks ago, when it was discovered that he had helped facilitate an £800,000 loan for the Prime Minister, Tory MPs and Tory ministers said, nothing to see here, that's totally fine.
The Lineker and Sharp cases are in some ways completely separate. For one thing, the BBC itself has no control over the appointment of the BBC chair. It's a government decision. But on the other hand, they are intimately related, perceived as two sides of the same coin in the raging debate over BBC impartiality. In the meantime, mutiny continued to cause havoc for BBC schedules as coverage of the Women's Super League on BBC Two went ahead without presenters.
You can download the full series now on BBC Sounds.
BBC Radio 5 had to play podcasts to fill holes before returning to normal service later.
Good afternoon, I'm Alistair Bruce Ball. And
Match of the Day 2 tonight is expected to be a shadow of its former self.
Ian's right about you just got to win a game.
And some of the BBC's usual faces popped up elsewhere. As to where it all goes from here, one former BBC executive had this advice.
Whether the guidelines themselves are sufficiently robust or clear, need a certain amount of revision in a world of social media and 24-hour news and all the rest of it, I think there's a case for that. So, no, I think they've made these decisions in the way they thought best, but on the hoof against an awful lot of pressure. The political heat hasn't helped from all sides.
The BBC may be in crisis, but there are solutions. The trouble is, there are few that will leave everyone satisfied.